Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. Actually, we've been kind of, I've been kind of shooting the breeze here. Poor Lauren on the top left there got here a little early, and I kind of chewed shoot her ear because anytime a film person comes into my world, I have to, I have to do my film shtick because I love film. And then Mathilde came. And I kind of poured out my heart, my soul, a little piece of my liver because their journey, and we're here to talk about their film Golden Afternoon, which I'm gonna talk to you about, which I haven't seen it yet, but I've done my extensive reading about it, and I find the premise haunting. Uh, and I'll get formal. So actually, to uh, be formal about it. With Mathilde Suissa. Did I
Yes.
pronounce that right?
You did.
Good. And Lauren Wohlmacher. Lauren is the writer and the lead. And the film was directed by Mathilde. And now I'll get formal. Grief is something we're going to talk a little bit about. We're going to talk about the film Golden Afternoon, which I'm so intrigued in everything I've read about it. In the storyline. Grief is something we all experience, and we don't really talk about it enough, and honestly, not in my world, and I guess in a lot of worlds. But sometimes grief shows up in unexpected places, and I'm kind of leading. Um, uh, so with that notion of grief, we're going to talk about a very powerful short film called Golden Afternoon, which I'm going to show you all again. Um, it's a story about a young woman navigating grief. And I don't think there's enough stuff out there about grief. And being an octogenarian, grief is in my life. I just realized that. Grief is in my life a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't and I'm not doing a great job of processing that. So we're going to talk about a young woman navigating grief, Janie.
Yes.
Uh, and uh, and you guys are amazing storytellers. I tip my hat because it's an interesting, you set out to tell an interesting story that needs to be told.
Thank you.
So, you know what? Why don't before we jump in, Lauren and Mathilde, why don't you just do a little bio sketch of yourselves, a little background, and then we'll jump in. So take it away, Lauren.
Sure. Hello. I'm Lauren. I'm an actor, writer, producer. Yeah, I did a lot of crew jobs outside of or after college. I majored in acting. And I was picking up a lot of random jobs and excuse me, that one of said random jobs is sort of what inspired the story. So, yeah.
Mathilde.
Well, thank you for having me. A little bit of my backstory. I guess I was born and raised in New York. I studied film at Hunter College. And after graduating, I started working right on set. And it led me to become a production designer actually for 7 years, which taught me so much about film and storytelling and visual storytelling before really taking the plunge and started directing and writing. And that's always been my goal, but um, kind of forged an interesting pathway in working in the art department and becoming a production designer for many years, and now really focusing on directing.
Okay. Okay. So, what was the moment that you realized uh, Golden Afternoon was a story that needed to be told? Was there a moment?
Sort of. So, the way this all came about is I was first connected with Lauren because we had the same representation at the time, and she had reached out and
to the group and said if anyone wanted to collaborate to send her a message. And so I did. And we got on a call and we were talking about different things that we could work on. And her and I had a similar background in that we're both freelancers who did these gigs and stuff. And we were talking about all the crazy things we've witnessed on these odd jobs. Her as a photographer, photographing weddings and stuff, you see a lot of intimate moments. And then I told her this story about this time that I worked at a celebration of life for a stranger at this in Central Park at a concert venue. And she was like, great, we should write that. Let's go from there. And so I wrote a draft of the script. I sent it to her. She liked it. And then the rest kind of came to be in the months after that.
Okay. Okay. The film, as I'm reading, explores grief in kind of a very unique setting, and you can say whatever without giving stuff away. But why did that concept resonate with both of you?
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, it was something I experienced in real life. So I had those like true emotions of like the whole thing really sticking with me. But outside of that, it was also the first time I had been to a ceremony like that. Like I was used to more traditional funerals and wakes, which I never, who likes that? But like I in particular struggled with going to those things, like open casket wakes and stuff. It just made me very uncomfortable and I didn't know how to deal with it. And it felt so like heavy and depressing. And so this was the first time that I went to something that was like beautiful. Both in like visually, it was outside, it was the summer, they had everyone was wearing, it looked like a wedding, like everyone was wearing, you know, colorful outfits and it was just a very happy atmosphere. Um, and I really enjoyed that as opposed to what I had experienced prior. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Mathilde.
Yeah, I think, well, for me personally, I think um, this film and the script came to me at like a very appropriate time in just in my life because very recently, my mom had passed away, and I was dealing a lot with that through filmmaking. I had made a film before I had met Lauren about Golden Afternoon that also was very um, related to grief and navigating difficult things in your life and how do you ask for help, how do you move on. And so it was really directly, I felt like, influencing my art. And my good friend Lauren Soa, we've been filmmaking friends for years. We've had a very close relationship, and she shared that with me, knowing, she had come to my mom. I had done a celebration of life for my mom, and I think when she read the script and was talking with Lauren, shared it with me and said, "I think you're the perfect person for this." And that's kind of how it felt. Is like it felt very perfectly timed just for in me in my life. And reading the script and feeling like it was kind of meant to fall into my lap, and I felt like that was something powerful enough that I felt the movie had to come together. And I was very excited about doing it with Lauren and the other Lauren squared.
Yeah.
So that's just my personal take on it, which I think informs a lot about how I create films and make art. Is so much of it, even if I haven't directly experienced something like that, I feel like so much of it somehow has come together, and that my personal life really influences it, and it's very relatable to me. So that's just how it came together for me personally.
I always believe, meant to be stuff. And I told you I was hugely spiritual. I did a clairvoyant thing with this amazing woman out in Texas. And she informed me that I'm 1,200 years old. And she told me stuff about myself that nobody on earth knew. So she was the real deal. And, I just keep coming back. And to make you feel a little bit better, Mathilde, with your mom, all my relatives who are gone, their pictures look at me 12 hours a day for many, many years. And I did some things some years ago when I was finishing writing my tortoise novel. I got stuck for months. I hit the wall, couldn't write. And I found some music that my mother loved, and I don't know what possessed me. And I listened to the music because I am OCD for like 3 days straight in order to bond with my mom who's been gone 20 years. And I actually stopped listening when my wife out there in the kitchen brought out the F word and told me to stop effing listening. It was driving her crazy. But it was a vehicle for me to get close to my mom, who I miss, who was such an influence in my life. And then 2 weeks later, I was texting with a friend of mine, and he asked me a question. I wrote yes, and I put my phone down. I sent a message to him and put my phone down. 15 minutes later, just a reflex action, I picked up my phone, and there in the outgoing message was the word mom typed. Strange stuff. And I don't have voice activation. So I had I mean, I knew how it got there. And she got permission, from somebody up there. And she came in, she typed mom because I was bonding with her. Powerful stuff. Which, of course, that was the piece of energy I needed to finish my novel. Anyway, back. But anyway, just to kind of, there are things beyond us, and they're nice things. So, uh, what do you think audiences are going to feel immediately after they see this film?
Um, I don't know. I mean, that's that's up to them, I guess. But I mean, I guess I hope that they feel I hope it brings them joy and makes them think about how they want to be remembered and to go easy on themselves and everyone around them. And yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I don't have a good answer to
Yeah, I
that.
agree. I agree. I think without giving too much away, obviously, I think, you know, our film kind of rides the wave of grief in that there are some really, sad moments, some, deep moments, but at the same time, you can allow yourself to have some moments of joy. And, I think as the movie kind of comes to a close, we are really hoping to spread a little bit of joy in that that's what that's what we really envisioned for a celebration of life is to really celebrate someone's life and to celebrate them in a really joyous, happy way, and to remember all the great things, the good memories, so that you really put an emphasis on the impact that person had on all of these people's lives. And so, I mean, so far from where we've screened, we've had some great festivals. We've gotten some great feedback on people telling us that it made them emotional, but at the same time they felt okay afterwards, and there was a little bit of joy that resonated with people, especially people who say that they also had a similar kind of celebration of life and opted for that so that they could remember their loved one with happiness and try to combat the sadness. So yeah, I think I don't know. People take things in many different ways, but that's I think what we really hope is to bring some joy into it.
Okay. All right, now some specifics. So Lauren, the story is inspired by true events. What stayed with you emotionally that made you want to write this? Um, uh,
Yeah, good question. Uh, I would say the whole day was super emotional for me for a lot of reasons. The woman who had passed away in real life was young and she had two young kids. Um, and I was the whole day just listening to stories that her friends and family were telling about her. She recorded a video diary for her kids over the course of her illness that they played, which was very emotional. And I don't know how much I want to get into spoilers for our film, but I'm just going to say it anyway because it's relevant. There was a song that was played at the ceremony, and there was a dance of some kind. And the song, whenever I hear it now, I think of that day and I think of her and all the people I met and all the stories that I heard. So really, like, especially the song is what stayed with me the most. And so we had an original song written for the film to sort of correlate with that. Yeah.
That
Try
was
not to spoil the whole thing,
no,
but yeah.
that's all right. That was Chantel wrote that, right? She
Yes.
wrote
Yeah.
the initial that song. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So Mathilde, your director's statement talks about immersion,
Mhm.
which is a great word. How did you visually bring that into the film?
Yeah, I think we approached it in two different ways. I think this the story itself, I think, does an amazing job of immersing not only Janie but the audiences in, these complete strangers' lives just for a part of the day. And so in that way, I think it was kind of easy for us to translate that visually and using Janie as a vehicle to bring everybody into this family. I know I think we have some clear points of Janie's life too. She's not lost in it. And, she's got a beginning section of her, young freelancer life. And then, using that into really sucking her into this family's experience, and getting to know these complete strangers and this woman who's passed away and feeling like she knew her, to how that moves on and how that impacted her for the rest of her life, I think. Um, so I think visually, I wanted to make sure that everything felt very grounded. So I think almost the entire film is shot very handheld style. So it just feels very real, that kind of like documentary-esque type of vision where you feel like your feet are on the ground, you're there with everybody. And I feel like that brings a lot of realism to the film, to the scenes, especially the really intimate ones during this the ceremony of life, and being very intimate with the cast and being really intimate with the characters, I think was also very important. I think seeing people's emotions up close and feels like you're there with them. But it's all of that is really credit to Lauren for writing the script from her point of view, which I think really helps bring somebody like her. Like, we're all like Janie, essentially. We're all outsiders, we're all strangers to whatever's happening. And it's a great vehicle for everybody to just come in, and then, that word immerse is like you really feel immersed once people start really explaining their relationship to the woman who's passed away. So yeah, I think is a combination of all those things cooking.
Okay. Okay. Um, I almost called you Janie. I had to
That's
stop.
okay.
That's all right. Well, that's good. And I haven't seen the film, but we'll talk about that. Anyway, as both a writer and a lead actor, which that's why I almost called you Janie, how personal was this role for you?
Extremely. It was, yeah, I've had a few questions of like, oh, what was it like playing her? What differences, whatever. But it really emotionally at its core was very in tune with myself, for a lot of reasons. It's a layered thing because at the time that I attended this thing in real life, my mom was sick. She had cancer. And so attending a service like this was really emotional to see because I was sort of grappling with my mom's terminal illness. And then I wrote the script, and then told my mom about it, and she knew that we were making it, but she actually passed away before we filmed it. And then my family had a celebration of life for her again before any of this started shooting, but it was after the script was written already. So it was a very very emotional and very personal on so many levels. So yeah, I mean, acting in it in particular was really emotional for me. But writing it too, I mean, I didn't just copy and paste like everything from my life. It was a lot of figuring out how to tell this story in a short amount of time, because there's only so much that you can do with a short. Um, and sort of taking things from different experiences I had and talking to different family members of mine sort of informed the speeches that are in the film. Um, but yeah, very layered experience.
Okay. Um, Mathilde, what was your first instinct when you read the script?
I mean, I think I had that same thought, that same sentiment that it feels like it was kind of meant to fall into my lap. Um, as I'm reading it, and the script was, I think, a little bit different before we really started pre-production,
Mm.
but I was reading it and really thinking like it is crazy that sometimes that statement, life imitates art, can sometimes when it's true for you, it feels like, really a kind of out of body experience that you're reading something that's like, this feels like it was meant to come into my life. Um, I just felt really excited. And after chatting with Lauren and hearing what her vision for the film was too, and seeing that on so many creative points and, honestly, our personal lives, like it really aligned. And I felt like it was meant to happen at the right time. We had some delays in production, and while that happens in the moment, it can be kind of disappointing. But when it finally all came together, that weekend that we shot it, it really felt like it was meant for this time, and that everything happens for a reason. Um, but to get back to the story, I read it and I knew it was such a beautiful story that when you're reading it, you don't really realize how many people can relate to it. You're kind of just singular in your own head. And now looking back on it as we're screening it in different states and different towns, hearing how many people say like, we did this, for my sister, it really reminded me of what we did for my brother or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, there's, like people really do relate to the stuff that they're watching. And so I felt like it was important. There's some stories that you read, some scripts that you read or films that you watch that when you're done, you really sticks with you. And that was important for us to make, I think. Even if it was at the time just important for Lauren and I for our own personal reasons to make it, it just felt important. So I think that was my thought process, I think, when I read it.
Uh, does does the thought for both of you, does the thought ever uh, occur to you that this could, you know, be made into something longer?
I've had that question a few times.
Wow. Okay.
It it's no, only because first of all, so the process of this, I started writing the script in 2022, and between all of our delays from weather and whatnot, it was finished in May of 2025. So it was a super long journey making this film. And during, like I said, like such a emotional, heavy time of my life too. Um, and it was such a great way of processing my feelings too, like through art, of course. But all of that said, I think towards the end, I was like, I'm ready for this chapter to be over and have it be its own thing, and it can go off and live and have its own life. But that said, grief as just a theme is something that I'm definitely interested in exploring more in a more long form way. I'm writing a feature actually that is more directly about experiencing the loss of a parent. But Golden Afternoon in particular, for me, I think that that was a chapter of my life, and it feels very like what's the word?
I
Meant to,
know.
you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's a contained thing
Yeah.
that time of my life, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I think it's the perfect amount of time for this type of story, that it's truly what this film is a very short glimpse into other people's lives. You know, it was really, I mean, I think the title kind of says it all. It was like, it was one very, very sunny golden afternoon. And there it
Yes.
is. I mean, I think that says it all. And that I think it's meant to be what it is, a short glimpse. And I think it's very appropriate for this film. It's like, we came, we said it, we showed the ceremony, and you know, Janie left, and I think that's the end of the story.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Lauren, from what I'm gathering, there's a kind of a subtle humor. You're smiling. There's this subtle
Mm.
humor, um, uh, uh, subtle humor in the grief in this film. Was that intentional?
Yes, very much
Uh,
so. I think it's like if you don't, what is it? If you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Hmm.
So
okay.
that's, I mean, something very true to myself. I feel like if I don't find humor in the darkest of times, I'll explode. So that was definitely very intentional when I wrote it, and when I experienced it, I was like, this is such a bizarre turn of events that's unfolding before my eyes, and I couldn't help but laugh at certain moments. So that was definitely intentional. And as we've screened, like it's funny seeing people laugh at parts that you didn't necessarily expect and whatnot. So it's been
Hmm.
really cool watching it with an audience.
Yeah, that is cool because sometimes you never expect that kind of a reaction, and there
Yeah.
you've got an audience and you get it, and it's like revelations. Boom.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? Oh, okay. Um, Mathilde, what was the most challenging um, moment for you as a director on Golden Afternoon?
Hmm. I that's a good question, because I feel like there's different levels to it. I think when you're approaching something that's very delicate, especially to some of the actors' personal lives, I think you need to take a lot of care in how you approach things, and how you approach a story that's obviously very close to someone. Um, Luckily, I think the team that we put together, the actors that we had, it came together so well that once we were in production, I really didn't have any fears or any difficulties. I think maybe just the one thing that stood out while we were shooting was how to approach a difficult subject, like someone passing away and a family member passing away in grief, to our child actors, because they were quite young, um, and how to approach that with them in an appropriate way, and how to also get the performance that you're looking for. But luckily, those two child actors were incredible. They understood, they listened. They're very in tune with me telling them that, at this moment, everyone is feeling really sad, and we're remembering somebody that everybody really loved, and they understood. And to also make sure to have levity and time for fun, and really balance that out. I had never worked with child actors quite as young as these two. So I think that was something that I approached more in a challenge, but it turned out to be an amazing experience. I think the only thing that was difficult was the logistical side of it. And I think that is always what happens when you go into making a film is once you actually get there and you start shooting, it's easy, honestly. But all the logistical side of things is always the challenge. And we had quite a few challenges with this film. I think I'm still sometimes in shock we were able to pull it off. But for someone who hasn't seen the film, there's quite a lot of locations, and where we shoot the ceremony and all of that stuff is actually Lauren's family's kind of estate, I would say, in New Jersey. But it's a little far from the city, so most people coming from the city is big logistical challenge to get people there, to house them. But I think our biggest challenge was the weather. Shooting like a film that's 90% exterior that needs to have this perfect weather, this golden afternoon, turned out to be way more of a challenge than I ever thought. And I guess that's just my naivete in doing a film that is like primarily outdoors. Is it does rain a lot in New York and New Jersey. And I've never had to really plan for rain in such an extensive way than we did. So we actually had to reschedule our first shoot for a few months later because we got rained out on our original day. And so that first weekend we postponed to different months where we felt like it was going to be much sunnier, and shot all of the, there's scenes that take place in quote unquote New York City, the subway, there's some driving scenes, and we did all of that on that rain day, which was its own challenge. Doing like 5 different locations in one day was an undertaking for sure.
Wow.
So yeah, interestingly enough, I feel like when I'm directing, when we're in the moment, and I think I feel like I can speak for everybody in saying that when you're in the moment, you're going to shoot the scene, you're going to talk about the scene with whoever's participating. It kind of comes easily. You feel like you know what's right, and to have such a great group of actors that really understand the nuance between dealing with grief. You don't really know what you're feeling in the moment. You don't know how to feel. You don't feel like you want to be a part of it, or you're trying to put on a smile and you're fighting it. They really understood all of that. So yeah, I would say the challenges were really all in logisticals. Yeah.
Interesting. It's funny. Again, I ain't a filmmaker. I don't aspire. I just love it. You were talking about logistics. I remember reading and seeing stuff about when Spielberg shot Jaws and the shark didn't work. Logistics. Logistics. And I'm by the way, if you see me writing, it's because I am writing. I take notes, even as an interviewer. I take notes and I'm filling up pages as I'm listening to you all. So anyway, I'd like to go off topic for a couple of things, just to kind of break things up. So here goes. I borrowed this question, I'm not embarrassed to say, from my favorite journalist, Barbara Walters. So here goes. Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with. It could be 1, 2, none, whatever. Take it away.
Oh, no.
You want to tackle it first, Lauren?
No, I do not. Excluding family or friends.
Yeah, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with. It could be a couple. There's no rules here,
I can go first. I actually think you might have said it first, Calvin, in that I think I would choose Steven Spielberg just because, aside from the fact that he's probably one of the greatest directors that, filmmakers ever. One thing that I feel like he is truly a master at is blocking. And I recently with my partner was revisiting a lot of his films because I'm making another film and I wanted to challenge myself in this sort of like art of blocking. And he had mentioned like if you want to look at a master of blocking a shot, a difficult shot that has maybe even if it's just one actor or two, three, a ton of them, is Spielberg comes up with these incredible ways to create a shot with blocking his actors. And so he'll use one person as a vehicle to get to the next person, to get to the next person, then under a table. Like obviously he has a lot of tools at his disposal and a big crew at his disposal. But those ideas don't come from anywhere. That those are genius ideas that when you see these certain shots that he's created, these ideas, and I've heard him speak a few times, and sometimes it comes to him on the day that like, okay, now I've got it. We're gonna go here, we'll do that. Like I would love a glimpse into the mind of somebody who's able to come up with that. Sometimes like on the spot, on the day, on the morning, they're gonna shoot this restaurant scene, or I think that's absolutely fascinating and a skill that a lot of directors have to flex and figure out, like not just get someone's coverage over here and get someone's coverage over here. It's like we make it one, it's a scene. We make it one complete scene, and we tie everything together. So I would say for that purpose, like I would love to just get a little slice in how he comes up with that. How does that process even happen,
Okay. You could, if you're
I'm supposed to top that.
yeah, you could pass on this question. That's fine.
Well, I mean, there's like 1,000 people
Of
who I
course there
could
is.
say.
Of
I'll
course.
say for the sake of this interview, you can't go wrong with Meryl. I mean, my God, there's like 1,000 questions you could ask Meryl
Yeah,
Streep.
correct.
Feel like that it doesn't even need a ton of explanation. I mean, yeah, I would love to just
Mm-hmm.
pick her brain about her whole career and her life, and in particular, making the movie Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
would be
Which
would be
was,
a personal
I thought that
goal
was
of
completely
mine.
out. I thought that was completely out of her, her sphere.
Oh my God. I'm obsessed with that movie. So I would God, but I wouldn't give to be a fly on the wall for that
Yeah,
set. But yeah.
yeah.
That's
Brave.
my
That was
answer.
brave. Funny, I didn't tell you this before we went on air, but I'm one of the few people on Earth who turned down Spielberg twice. I auditioned for Water Worlds because
Oh, wow.
they filmed it not as an actor, but as an actor, as an extra. After I did One True Thing, it went to my head that maybe I am, an actor. So when I found out they were having auditions in Newark, I'm from Newark. So I went, did everything and filled everything out, and they actually called me. Casting called me, and they had something for me because I'm 6'5". Maybe they wanted a tall person. And at the time, I was in the eyeglass business, and that was an 8-day shoot, that opening scene, and I just didn't know I could take off, 8 days and get in trouble. So I passed. But I told the casting, her name was Martha. I said, if something else comes up, call me. What the hell. That was a Friday. Monday, she called me, said, we have something else for you. And then I made probably the biggest single mistake of my life, and I live with it every day. I said to her, improv, I said, I realized they want me. So I said to her, I'll do it, but I want to guarantee you screen time. At which point she laughed at me and she said, we don't even give that to Tom Cruise in the movie. Why would we give it to you? So I said, I'll pass. Terrible mistake. That was the opening scene in Water World was like a half hour long. It's a long, I mean, I would have had plenty of screen time. And I would have been on set there hanging around, maybe get the Spielbergs and stuff. I blew it. I live with that every day of my life.
Everything happens for a reason.
I'd like to know the
You don't
reason.
know.
I'd like to know.
The
Uh,
butterfly effect, who knows where you'd be now?
do, do you all have any particularly favorite movies beside Mamma Mia?
Uh,
Yeah, I have too many favorite movies, I think. I'd say one I think is appropriate maybe for this interview and just dealing with I guess not necessarily grief, but tough moments in your life and bringing a little bit of comedy and lightness to it is The Apartment is one of my favorites that I go back to every Christmas. It's not the
Uh,
typical Christmas movie, but it takes place over Christmas and it's just there's some dark things that happen in the film, but it's such a comfort film to me and it's one that brings real life and comedy and getting through it. It's one of my absolute favorites. I love that film.
Jack and Shirley.
Yes,
Yep,
iconic duo. It's just an incredible film. It's
correct,
truly one of my favorites.
correct. Yep.
my favorite movie of all time is The Florida Project by Sean Baker. Um, I love the naturalism of his movies. I've also noticed that a common theme of films that I really gravitate towards is like children in very adult situations and how they sort of see the world and navigate through it. Because I also love the movie Room. Life is Beautiful. Like all these movies that I really, really love. I'm like, oh, that's a thing in all of these films. So I guess that is a subject matter. And even this, I guess, sort of too, having
Mm-hmm.
having kids in the film dealing with the loss of their parent and still being kids and wearing butterfly wings. And
Mm-hmm.
um in our film, that's what I meant. But yeah, that's
Okay, good, good. All right, moving on a bit, and I'm watching the clock, so I'm very careful about that. So you created an original song for the film. How did that collaboration come together? And I guess that involves Chantel too.
Yes. So, for copyright reasons, of course, we couldn't use any sort of big commercial song for our little independent short film. But that was also like a good thing because we could have something sort of tailored to our story. And yeah, I met Chantel. I was a PA on a YouTube web series years ago, right before the pandemic. And she was talent in the show. And we like exchanged Instagrams and just stayed connected over the years. And I was following her career as a dancer and singer, and I knew that she made music. So I sent her a message and I told her what the story was about and that we were looking to get an original song made. And we hopped on a call and she talked about her process and her connection to the themes of the story, and it seemed like the right fit, and it was. And she made it. I mean, I don't even remember the exact timeline, Mathilde, but like it was pretty fast that we had from the initial meeting with her to like the final product even was maybe like a month and a half.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
mean, she just complete. She's an artist. She's a musician, born musician. So it's we had I think one major kind of call with her, video call with her, and just told her our inspirations. She had read the script. She knew what the film was about, and we gave her some songs of inspiration, I think, that we thought of when reading the scene or thinking about the dance. And she just understood everything that we were trying to create. And I think that was the only thing that she had come back to us with
Yeah.
was Dream Girl. And it was amazing. Like it's just everything that we had hoped she had really understood and she put it into the song. And yeah, it was amazing. I had never had an experience like that working with a musician. With a composer, yes, but it's a different sort of relationship you have. But to create this song that is truly so important in the film, and she just nailed it. Like it was a dream come true.
right. Boom.
Yeah. Couldn't have
Uh,
said it better.
yeah. And I've become in my later years such a fan of music in film and the emotionality of it, and you know, it's like you wake up one day and you realize just how important music is in our world. And I always tell the story. I've watched Castaway. It's a hard movie to watch more than once. It just is. But I watch it because the ending, it was composed by Alan Silvestri. That music, no words, just the music, and it's one of the, to me, it's one of the most powerful pieces of music. It just takes me on a carpet and kind of lifts me and moves me. And the last scene when you're playing that, you feel the sadness, and there's also the hope and sadness,
Mhm.
and all these emotions are coming out in that one piece at the end, and you don't know which way he's going to go. Is it going to go? There's four different directions he can go. We all think he's going to follow the girl. So it made me from that appreciate so much songs, music in film and the art. It's artistry really
Mhm.
to capture, you know. So the the film, as we kind of wind down, but I could probably go on and talk to you for at least another hour or two. That's not going to happen. But because I love this whole, I love your world. Uh, um, the film suggests there is no right way to grieve. Was that like a central message right from the beginning to create that?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there's so many different, like in different cultures and countries, different customs and ways to go about honoring your loved ones. And so I think throughout this process, I've just learned so much about this very specific thing of like, you know, funerals versus wakes versus celebrations versus I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I'm crying, I'm angry. It's like there's just a world of emotion and it's you know, you don't see the same thing twice. I feel like it's a very personal experience. And I think breaking down some of those like notions of how we're supposed to do it is so important because in just my own experience, I mean, it's such a roller coaster. And I think being like accepting of everyone's own roller coaster is important because it's something that's going to touch all of us at the end of the day. So,
Okay. Okay. Um, Last question. What, I don't want it to be the last question, but it is. What moment in the film do you think will stay with people the longest and why? It's
mm.
kind of a provocative question. Um, or
Mathilde,
is
what do
there?
you think?
It's hard to say. I also don't want to give too much away, but there's I think one shot of the film that has stayed with me um is that there's a moment where everyone's getting up and they're walking to do a separate portion of the ceremony, and it's a shot from behind. You see all these chairs and people getting out of their seats, and as the crowd kind of dissipates, there's one person that's still sitting there, and that's Julia's mom. And throughout the film, there's different things that happen, but she's she's kind of, as we also as we talk about like how people grieve differently. She's kind of our example in that she's the one that stands alone in really not being able to accept this day and what it means. And it means that her daughter is gone. And so she's kind of left sitting there, and she's the only one that just can't muster up the courage to get up and move past looking at her daughter's photo. And I think there are many moments in the film that I think are so powerful and so beautiful, and also kind of, as we were talking about spiritual, I feel like spiritual too. Um, but something really sticks with me in that ending of the ceremony. It's really the end of this whole celebration of people giving speeches. And for that, I can't really pinpoint the exact reason, but that one always sticks with me.
Okay. Okay. Well, we touched on this. Are there ways for folks to see this or not yet?
We have one more festival lined up, which
Okay.
is tomorrow, but by the
Okay.
time this comes out, it will be in the past.
Okay.
But yeah, TBA on
Mhm.
after that, but hopefully there will be a public
Okay.
way to stream it soon.
Well, fine. You'll let me know. By the way, I didn't ask this, but we're in I'm in Monmouth County here, and I'm 11 minutes away from this big $1 billion studio that's going up in Eatontown by
Mhm.
Netflix.
Yeah, yeah.
So the world, I think, is a lot more promising and hopeful for indie filmmakers because the world is going to need content, content, content.
Mhm.
And Jersey's becoming a really hotbed because we got, what is it, Iron Gate's going up in Hudson County, and somebody else has plucked down $1 billion in South Jersey. So for you guys, as indies, it can be a very interesting new world,
Mhm.
Yeah, very
brave new world.
exciting. We
Yep, yep,
filmed
yep.
3/4 of the movie. No, more than that.
Mhm.
90% of the movie in
Yeah.
Jersey. Um,
Jersey.
so yeah, very, very proud New Jersey
Yeah,
Mhm.
filmmaker.
correct, correct. Me too, me too. So, hey, thank you so much. I'm glad this came about because I think your journey and the story you're telling is great stuff, truly. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You can always come back for sure. Like I said early, I sit in this chair 12 hours a day, get my violin. Let's do some more stuff together because I love your world. And thank you so much, and good luck with Golden Afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't leave. We'll do a 30-second wrap. Don't leave. Thank you.
Okay.